Well, good morning. My name's Mark Telford, and I'm a very average CrossFitter, and I train out of CrossFit Tailored Training in Washington, in the northeast of England. As anyone who knows me knows, I absorb all of the CrossFit content. I watch most of the shows, repping my barbell spin t-shirt from the Syndicate semi-finals this year, and I thought I'd give it a go myself, mainly to talk about District L, which, if you haven't heard of it, has got to be one of the biggest CrossFit competitions in the UK. I say CrossFit, it's not licensed. It's a functional fitness competition, and it's held every year in the Lakes by District L, the gym. And basically, I wanted to give a lowdown on it. So, if you haven't heard of it, it's been hosted for the last 4 years at Glenridding on Ullswater, right on the grass, right in front of the lake. Honestly, perfect venue. Comes with one downside, and that is it is in the lakes. And that means you never have any idea what weather you're going to get. So I'm going to start off with that and say the event was 3 days, well, 2.5 days, with one event on the Friday, which was a two-part workout, run, and also a paddleboard and run. Now, it was a really good event, but the weather was absolutely abysmal. And there's nothing anyone can do about that. So the way it worked, it was split into two teams. You had one team of four, one team of two. The team of four had to go indoors to start off with in a tent to do some work on the ergs, bike and row, complete a certain distance, and then head off out on the run. Like I say, weather was abysmal, and it did lead to quite a lot of slips, trips, and falls on the run, but that's part and parcel of the event. And so I wanted to draw attention to one thing. My teammate didn't wear his trail running shoes and spent a lot of the time on his ass. So I'm just going to give a shout out here to Innovate. These shoes were the ones I pretty much wore the entire weekend. I've actually got multiple pairs of very similar shoes, all from Innovate. And they are fantastic when you're training outdoors. They're zero drop, so they're quite good for most movements, and the tread helps on the grass, which you're going to be on a lot of the time at the event. So if you're looking at doing District Town next year, don't worry about your CrossFit shoes, your Metcons, your Nanos. They've got no grip. You're going to be on mud. You're going to be on grass. Get some trail shoes because you are going to need them. But that was the only negative in terms of the weather. Saturday and Sunday, it was beautiful. So what I'm going to do on this video is I'm just going to talk about the negatives, the positives, and the overall experience of District L. And I'm going to start with one negative that I think was objectively bad, and it is the only one that I can lay my hands on. Ultimately, it was a fantastic weekend, and this video is overwhelmingly positive, but I am going to start with one I feel objectively negative experience. And that was that on the Sunday, the heat times changed for one of the workouts. So we were about first on the Sunday for our first workout. And the first, I think we were in heat two. We checked out of our accommodation and came down for workout two to be told that we'd missed our heat and that the heat times had changed on Circle 21. Now, understand these things happen, but you're in the Lake District, and anyone who's ever been to the Lake District knows that there's no mobile phone signal. So we couldn't get on Circle 21. We weren't getting notifications on our emails, and we had no idea that the heats had changed. Ultimately, yes, our responsibility to check, but when you haven't got internet, you cannot check. So we had a bit of a hoo-ha with the organisers, and they were going to put us in a heat at 12:15, which was 15 minutes before our next workout. So we would have been doing back-to-back workouts. However, we weren't the only team that was impacted. So George very kindly fitted us into another lane. However, what that means is that was because there was another team that were in the same boat as us, didn't know the heats changed. So there was 264 teams at this competition, all staying, camping, wherever it might be. And so there was a bit of carnage on that Sunday morning. I think when you've got that many teams and you've released the heat times and you've put them out, you've got to stick to it because there's no way of communicating that information. So that is it. That is the only negative that I have for District L that I feel is objectively a bad decision. But that didn't take away from the weekend. So let's go for the things that I think are subjectively bad. Okay. So the first one was there were two workouts that I feel could have been programmed a little bit better. The overall programming was 100% the hardest that I've done at District L in now 5 years that I've done it. I felt the most beat up at the end of the weekend, and that's great. You know, there's been 1 or 2 years where you've finished and you've sort of thought, I didn't really feel like I was getting the push, because ultimately you're limited by who's in your team, or, you know, you're limited by the movements, etc., etc. But me and the rest of the teams from my gym, of which there were 4, pretty much all agreed that this was the toughest year when it came down to programming. But the two workouts that I feel personally, and like I say, this is subjective, other people may completely disagree, were workouts 5 and 6. Now, the reason that I personally think they could have been a bit better was due to the fact that the idea is you finish a certain amount of work as your team, and then at the end you have the opportunity to do something else. So workout 5 was it was an AMRAP, in which you had to do 20 worm lunges, 15 clean and jerks, 20 worm lunges, 60 pull-ups in threes, 20 worm lunges, 15 worm clean and jerks, 20 worm lunges, and then in the remaining time, max bar muscle-ups. Now, the reason that I'm not the biggest fan was because only 21 out of the 284 teams got to go to the bar muscle-ups. For me, what I would like to see as a spectator, as a participant, is that it should be a bit like the Open. You should have that opportunity to do something you've never done before. Most people have never done sync bar muscle-ups in threes. There might have been some people able to go for their first ever bar muscle-up. Teams fighting to get them. You could still have had the split times for the finish, so you would still not cramp that leaderboard up. You would still have the same capacity to work, but with it being 10 minutes, only 21 teams, I believe, looking at the leaderboard, got to the bar muscle-ups. For me, I'd prefer that to be somewhere around the 25% mark. So that in every heat of 20, you've got 4 or 5 teams trying to get onto those muscle-ups, trying to rack up a number of those muscle-ups. I do appreciate that you might end up with a number of teams that end up doing a large amount. But again, you could put a cap on the number, and a second time, circle 21, more than capable of doing that. So I think, for me, I would have preferred either slightly longer time cap or a slight reduction, especially as the number of teams that have the capacity to do pull-ups in threes or have the capacity to do the worms, cleans, touch and go is a lot smaller. So that's a subjective viewpoint. But for me, I would have loved to have seen more teams on that rib doing them bar muscle-ups at the end. And then, really, again, for me, kind of the same feeling for workout 6, which was sled length carries, devil's press in threes with different weight dumbbells, over-unders, and then dumbbell snatch again in threes. Again, no arguments with the programming of the actual movements, no arguments with how I felt, no complaints about how it panned out, other than, again, I think only 40 teams, let me just check my notes here, 41 teams, I think, got to the end part, which was, again, a max distance handstand walk. Once again, appreciate that you could end up with one team doing it for a long time, but again, you could cap the distance and have it almost as how long it takes you to do, I don't know, 60 meters or whatever it was. But again, seeing people trying to do those handstand walks, 25% for me would be more about it. So only 40 teams actually did any handstand walks. I think there was a couple of teams that literally finished the workout bang on the time and didn't have time to move. But to see more teams, more people, more athletes doing those high skill movements, I think it just showcases what we've done in the community. We've advanced a long way. If you go back to District Towel 5 years ago, 3 people sync on pull up or 3 people sync on a toaster bar wasn't the thing. It was always pairs, but now more and more people can do those movements. So for me, I would have I'd reduce the reps, reduce the time cap, increase the time cap to get more teams onto those movements. I think that would be better. Or you have a sync in twos option as a scaled option, but you've got to do more reps, something like that to allow you to move through those gymnastics movements on some of the other workouts. So I can't really complain about workout 4. Sorry, not workout 4. Workout 2, which was a toaster bar in 3s. At the end of the day, you're limited by your team's skill. But it was a 30 sit-ups was the other option. I don't know. I like seeing people on the rig because I like seeing people move. Perhaps for me, I would have said, let's have a bigger number of toaster bar, but do them in pairs. So that if you have someone who can't do the movement on a team, they don't feel like they're letting the whole team down by forcing everyone to do sit-ups. But again, that's me, it's subjective. So that's the only real negatives that I've got. And like I say, they're my perspective, my subjective opinion. But let's talk about the good things, because there were a lot of them. I've already talked about the weather. The SL8 could have been awful, but it was absolutely stunning. And Glenridding on a sunny day with that rig, it is like Britain's CrossFit mecca. So fair play to George, Sam, his team on the event that they've done. I had an absolute nightmare trying to get my ticket for next year. I missed out on the first batch. I was absolutely gutted. Missed out on the second batch, and I thought, that's it, that's District Tell over for me. I'll be having to watch Instagram and see if anyone wants a very average male to come and join their team last minute. But in the end, third wave, thanks to bullying George, came out and I managed to get myself a team. Now I just need to find 5 athletes that want to do it with me, but there's plenty of time to sort that out. So anyway, positives. First one, new worms. Last year, some of the worms were horrendous. You had 3 foot of just sack with nothing in it and a massive concrete ball at the end. You had some that were just higgledy-piggledy all over, and it was impossible to time some of the movements, and you had people carrying massive elephant trunks around. This year, brand new worms. Unbelievable. The speed at which some of the teams in the final were able to move them was phenomenal. The ability for teams to go touch and go, if they'd practiced it, was a lot more feasible, and it made a massive difference. And let's talk visually. They looked fantastic. Black, orange, District Towel logos everywhere, in front of that rig, on that lake. It was a sight to behold. So that was the first big positive. Second big positive that I really thought was good was that, it flowed so well. The timings were really good. Didn't feel like you were too crammed in. You had plenty of space to get the side workout in, which I also thought was good. The side workout was a sled push and a tire press, 4-minute workout, and you were able to fit it in elsewhere around the timetable. Go back 5 years, we had one with the pig in the rain, and we were digging a hole in a farmer's field, wasn't there? I don't think it went down so well, but this one went down really well. So for me, the timing of the event, how it all ran, I don't think we got behind at any point. So other than the communication on the Sunday morning, I thought that was a really good positive of the event. I'm excited for next year. He's announced that it's going to be a 10 a.m. start on the Friday, so I'm guessing we're going to be doing more workouts, maybe some longer ones. Um, I, I will say one other thing that was really good was the media access. We were able to bring teams media. So when you've got 264 teams and you've got a media team who are all fantastic photographers, videographers, there's absolutely no way they can capture the moments that the teams have consistently. And I know when you go through that album of thousands of pictures that come through, you're looking for you, you're looking for your team, you're looking for your teammates. And historically, it's very rare that you find them. I've got a great photo of me and my mate Mick, the owner of TT, from a couple of years ago on one of the runs. And it's a fantastic photo. I'm really proud of it. We did really well in that event, so having that memory is fantastic. But I think that was one of about 5 photos from the whole weekend that had me on it from their official photography. And, you know, let's be honest, it's part of why we do it. So we this year you were able to pay, and then your media person got access to your lanes for your team. So we had 4 teams, and my dad is a keen amateur photographer. He comes and does all our photos at all our in-house events. And this year he was able to come and photograph TT. So he was in all of our lanes, all of our workouts. And, you know, at the end of the day, he'd come out with 300, 400 photos of us. And all of the guys at the gym have memories to go away with. And I know that other gyms all did the same. And I think that was really, really positive, because it takes the pressure off the media teams to an extent, and make sure that every athlete, if they want it, have those photos to go away with. So Sam, who did the media, organised that, thought that was a great thing to do. And yeah, I think that kind of sums up the overall District Tale experience. So, lastly, just want to talk about my experience as an athlete and how the weekend went for me and my team. Ultimately, really happy with how we did. I think we finished 91st or something, but we had some really, really, really good experiences. So let's talk about the best workout of the weekend. The 6-man paddleboard race. Probably some other CrossFit competition does it somewhere, but I've never seen it anywhere else, certainly not in the UK. And it is carnage, it's fun, it's chaos. Last year, it was integrated into Workout 1 as a precursor to the team run, but this year it was its own standalone event. I don't know how many paddleboards are out at a time, 10, 12, something like that, but you're stood up in a line at the lake's edge, you've got your timer chip, and then you will walk through the timing gate, ran to the lake, got on your paddleboard, and paddled like crazy. So this was workout 4, the last workout on day 1, and we came 19th overall. So unbelievable result out of 208, 64 teams. I think I said it was. To come 19th was absolutely fantastic. Team worked really well. We had me and Moz driving the engine at the back, and it was great. We were driving it. We had Julie, Jane, Amy, my girlfriend, and Big Dan at the front, and we communicated really well. We absolutely smashed it. We were quite near the back. We overtook about 3 teams on the way out to the buoy, and then we overtook another couple on the way to the second buoy, and we got a really good time. From our gym, it also provided probably the best moment of District Tale for our team, which we did a reel of John Don misjudging the depth of the water as he got off the paddleboard and disappearing into the water, coming out with a massive grin on his face. Honestly, the District Tale 6-man paddleboard, can't wait for it next year. Didn't have the two-man paddleboard race this year, which was always a highlight previously, but we did have the two-man paddleboard event as part of Workout One. Now, I didn't touch on this earlier in the negative because I didn't do it, so I can't comment too much on it. And to be honest, I didn't have too much feedback on it. But that first workout where you were split into a 4 and a 2, the the team that did the 4 and did the ergs and then went off on the run, that was about 29, 30 minutes of work. I can't remember our time, might have been 31 minutes. Versus the paddleboard, I think ranged from about 6 to 12 minutes. Maybe it should have been a slightly bigger balance in that first time. Maybe the paddleboard could have been a bit longer. Maybe the sandbag run could have been a bit longer. I think it was 60 meters. Might have been a slight change because of the weather. It was very windy. Maybe maybe the paddleboard course was a little bit shorter. I don't know. So I don't want to comment on it in a negative way. But our team, coming down on that Friday, 2 members of the team only done 6 minutes or 8 minutes of work versus us doing 30 minutes, or the other 2 that did half of it doing another, they did half of that. So potential negative, potential not, I don't know. But first workout, 2-man paddleboard. Honestly, if you haven't done it before, it's absolutely great. See the photos, see the videos. And if you haven't done it before and you're doing District Towel next year, get excited for that. So workout 1, 2-man paddleboard. Workout 4, 6-man paddleboard. Great fun. And then the run, workout 1, we did really well on the ergs. I think we finished in about 7:30, which was about the time we were intending to finish at the paces we knew we could do. Me, Julie, Dan and Amy on the rower and the bike. Really happy with how we performed there. We knew it would be sub-8 as long as we hit those numbers under 2 minutes. And we didn't want to blow ourselves up for the run, which was going to be the biggest part of the workout. And if you haven't done the run before at District Towel, get ready to run vertical. You need to do some hill training. I personally ran at Pentrol Monument, which isn't too far from me. Kind of steep hill, give myself a bit of hill training, ready for it, because I knew what was coming after doing it for the last 5 years. So you run out of Glenridding, you run along the road, turn right at the cricket club, you go up the hill, and then at the top of the hill, that was our drop-off. And then it was a little bit further up the hill for the last 2 athletes, which was me and Dan. And then you've got the decline back in Glenridding and down to the finish. Now, being honest, we made a mistake. Dan had got a beautiful new pair of Nike trail running shoes. However, they were white. And as such, it was grim weather, mud everywhere. And he was like, I don't want to wear them. And as a result, he spent a lot of that run falling over, slipping over. And, ultimately that did harm our time. But still, it's District Towel. He wore them for the rest of the weekend, and I think they got even muddier. So perhaps if he'd worn them, we might have got a little bit of a better position. But we did really well on the other part, and overall can't complain. Workout 2 was the toes to bar, sled pull, deadlift, and sled pull. Touched on this one earlier. Because it was 3-person toes to bar, you were limited. So we had one group, myself, Julie and Jane, we did AdMat sit-ups, and then Amy, Moz and Dan, they did toes to bar. Potentially we should have switched who started, but it was hard graft. That sled pull, oh my word, that gives me nightmares. Last year, pulling that yoke was probably the worst workout I've ever done in my entire life. And this year, this was just about the same. The pain in the back and the forearms at the end of that workout was grim. I was almost glad I didn't have to do toes to bar in amongst it. Workout 3, brilliant worm workout, 3, 6, 9, 12, all about coordination. Squats, push press, burpees over worm, fantastic. My girlfriend hates burpees and she did absolutely brilliant. The coordination on the worm, brilliant. Team leader Moz drove us through it, absolutely buzzing with our performance on that. Workout 4, paddleboard, talked about already, highlight of the weekend. Get signed up to District Towel just for that. And if you can't sign up to District Towel, go out and buy a 6-man paddleboard and take your gym out on it, because it is a right laugh. Workout 5, again, touched on that one. Limiting factor and the pull-ups, like I say, I'd maybe reduce the reps, got more people finished, and had a go at them bar muscle ups. We had people who could do it. Other teams did as well. Like, I just want to see people doing those high school movements. That's what I enjoy watching. Workout 6, same, was the sled carry and the dumbbell movements. Again, for me, would have liked to see more people do handstand walks, just because I love people getting those open moments of hitting those high school movements. And I would have just loved to have seen more teams doing it, and some teams trying to race each other, go a bit faster. Can you get those extra few meters? So, but again, our team, we did the best that we possibly could, considering we didn't even know we were doing the workout until I was stood there shouting my team over because George had sorted us out alone. And so strategically, we had an absolute disaster, but we had a right laugh and really enjoyed the workout. Workout 7, the final workout, sandbags. There's always sandbags in some capacity at District Health. You've got 60, a 40, and a 30. If you're doing District Health in 2027, get familiar with them. Every year that I've done it, it's always been split into 3s. So you need some girls that are confident at lifting the 40 kilo sandbag. And you need one male or one female, if your name's Chloe Morgan, to be confident on that 60 kilo sandbag, because it gets grim after a while. If you're not familiar with cleans on a sandbag at 60, you need to be for District Health 2027. Get using them. Rep ranges vary, so you need to be able to do sets of 5, sets of 6, touch and go, maybe sets of 10, dropping it, whatever. But get familiar with that sandbag movement and get ready to carry it. Usually there's been some sort of sandbag carry, so you might have to run with it. And if your team can confidently do those 3 weights, then you're putting yourself in a really, really good position for next year. And then, like I say, workout 8 was the side event. I've touched on that already. So it was sled push and tire press. I talked about the shoes earlier. You're on grass, you're on mud. If you've got a pair of trail shoes, get them. Get that grip. That would be my advice. And then the final, we obviously didn't make the final, but teams that did. The final is always basically a compendium of everything that came before. Usually those high school movements come in: chest to bar, bar muscle ups, rope climbs. So if you can coordinate those movements, if you can get to the final, make sure you can do them and make sure you can do them in 3s. If you haven't got a worm, get out and buy yourself a worm for your gym to practice on this year and make yourself familiar with them. Also, team skipping, that's one other thing I didn't mention. Buy yourself a 6-man skipping rope. We've got one at our gym. Have that practice. It's obviously totally different on the grass, but loads of teams smashed the worm, struggled on the rope, and probably because they're just not familiar with doing it before. But get yourself a 6-man rope. So that's it, really. That's my wrap up for District Health. Fantastic event. If you haven't got a ticket, keep an eye out for cancellations. Keep an eye out on Facebook for groups going up to 2027 and get yourself on board. It is an absolutely amazing event and I'd recommend it to anyone. And if you are doing it, maybe take some of these takeaways that I've given you this year. I did write one thing that I think might be of interest to anyone who is doing it, which was kind of a guide on what you really need to be able to do for District Health if you don't want to have to scale the movements. And so I just want to give you that to give anyone who is thinking of doing it a little bit of a target. So finally, bear with me 1 second while I find my notes. This was my thoughts. If you don't want to scale the movements, you need all 6 of your team members to be able to do the following. So toes to bar and pull-ups. Sets of 5, but being able to repeat them. So can you do a set of 5 pull-ups, drop down, rest for 15 and 20 seconds, and do another set of 5 while your other 3 do it? Because if you can split it into 2 groups of 3 on your team, you're going to munch through those numbers. Now, if you're talking 60 reps like we did this year, have you got 30 pull-ups in you repeatedly? Butterfly, chicken, whatever it might be. Can you jump up and do 5, jump down, jump up and do 5, jump down, jump up and do 5? Reduce that transition time. Can you do it? If you can do more, fantastic, but that has got to be your focus. So any sort of EMOM on pull-ups, or every 30 seconds, build it up, get working that. And the same with toes to bar. Again, if you've got 60 or 30, you need to be able to do 5, drop down, get up and go again, get up and go again. You're going to have other movements in amongst it, but those 2, I'd say, is a good baseline to go for. Get bigger sets, even better. But if you're at 5s, you're still going to work through these. Dumbbell movements. Can you confidently move 2 22.5 kilo dumbbells in a devil's press? Can you confidently move 15s in a devil's press? 2 dumbbells. I think it's always been 2 every year that I've done it. It's not been singles. So get yourself familiar with them. And again, sets of 5, rest, another set of 5 every 20 seconds. Can you repeat that? If you can, you're putting yourself in a good position to do well at District L. Then I've already talked about the sandbag. Get familiar on them. Same again. Sets of 5 with a 40 if you're a female. Sets of 5 with a 60 if you're a male. Have you got that in the locker? Can you consistently do that? Can you do it under fatigue? All stuff you can practice in the gym that's going to set you up well. And then the last one is probably not an essential, but something that I would recommend is that running. Yeah, the run always changes every year. It's always been different. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter, sometimes you have drop-off points. So you don't all need to be top runners. But while that hill is there and while they do it at Glenridding, I am reckoning we're going to run up that hill every single year. So number 1, if you want to be able to run for a District L and carry your team to the end, you need a decent 5k time. Yeah, sub 25 minutes. If your whole team's got that in the locker, you're doing well. But can you all run up a hill? Where's your nearest big hill? Get out and do some hill runs. If you can carry on up that hill or proceed up it, even if you can't run, are you used to doing it? It is long. If you go on Strava and look at the run around District L that a lot of people have posted, you'll see the elevation gain. You'll see it. So if you are doing District L 2027 and you want to be in that final, what is your 5k time and can you run up a hill? All right. The paddleboard, probably the least accessible. You're going to be very lucky to practice it, but if you've got some understanding of putting the paddle in the right way, Jimmy Maguire, then you'll probably do all right. Anyway, that's me. That's District L. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you there on the field in 2027. Thanks, George. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, the team at District L for putting on such a great event, and thanks for releasing those extra tickets. See you there.